10. At 40-10, you have officially quit. And it's a bad roster. There are a lot of things that aren't very good. Jalen Worley's not any good. You have Darren Green Jr. can shoot sometimes, but that's about the only thing he does. Caleb Mills' best quality is he can create a shot every now and then, but he's not tough. Matthew Cleveland has reached his ceiling. Got a unique skill set in Bobby Miller that we don't use. I don't know, man. It's worst I've seen it. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, this was a follow-up, an encore, if you will, to last year's trip to the state of North Carolina, but to play the Tar Heels, because the first halves were very similar in terms of point disparity. I think we got to 6 by the 10-minute mark of the first half. We got to 6.
In that one?
Which was, in this one last night.
Did we get to 6?
6 points at the halfway point of the first half.
I think we had 6. Yeah, it was 20. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
I've got one rule stemming from last night's game, other than the obvious things, because I'm sure you would chime in and say, don't suck. That's probably a good rule, too.
It's a good rule.
But let's not yell and one down 20+. That happened multiple times last night. Different players. You can probably guess one of them. But multiple players yelling and one on our side down 20+. That's not what we do, guys.
It's the second worst ACC loss for FSU under Leonard Hamilton. Been here a long time. Second worst loss. And I think this one has many elements that make it the worst. When you're down 40-10 with 6 minutes and 18 seconds left in the half, and it's 24-4, you're not playing hard. I mean, it's impossible to be playing hard and have score 40-10. So, I think, the likelihood of one more season for Ham is there. It's in place. It'll happen next season, I think.
Keep doing this for the next 8 games, though.
Makes it really tough, right? And how do you hit the reset button? Because I think the only way that you do that, you have one last campaign in which you go and make the tournament, and then he calls it a day. I mean, he'll be 75 in August. So I would think that he's probably ready to call it a day. But you have to, in this day and age, we usually use this to talk about the transfer portal as it pertains to football, but you're going to have to do it in basketball. You're going to have to you got to purchase this roster.
That's the other thing, is you might have some players that you like, but there's no guarantee they're going to stick around. The guys that are the proper type of members of this program, they do the right things. They've got some skill to them. They're going to develop in the long term. If they're going through this and they're doing all of the right things, what makes them want to stick around here if they've got a freebie? Go somewhere else. That's the hard part here. That's what you've got to navigate is, you may want to purge some things. Can't get much worse. So if you got guys that you don't believe are going to lead and help fix the problem, then let them go. But for the other ones, is there any guarantee that they're going to stick around?
There's some guys that you'd be happy if they approached you and said they were ready to take.
Sure.
By all means.
Yeah.
By all means. Yeah, it sucks. It's an awful situation. I won't stay on the subject for a prolonged period of time because it's just beating a dead horse. It's self-evident what's happening. There's not much to say other than they're terrible, and it looks like they're going through the motions. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And that automatically, by definition, if you say somebody's terrible and they're going through the motions, that reflects poorly on the entirety of the basketball program. And again, by definition, there's a man who heads the basketball program. So it's not a good look. I hate it because it's antithetical to everything Ham stands for and everything that he preaches and everything that he tries to instill and everything that he's done in the past. But it's the reality of their situation, and there's no ignoring that. We don't do that. We don't pretend it's not happening. We don't turn our heads to things like this just because it's ugly and unfun to have a discussion about. We certainly have to address it. I had one guy on Twitter who's been a reasonable person over the years that, you get people who reach out to you all the time and make comments, and you find the ones that are irrational and prone to hyperbole and those that are a little bit more even keel. And he said, look, man, if it were anybody else, I'd be in favor of firing him on the spot. But it's Ham, and I love him, and I know what he's about, and I know what he's done and what he's achieved. And so, yeah, you could have another year, but we're about done here. And this is, if it were anybody else, you could bet you'd be saying, well, this is it.
Well, and there's also the little thing about game pressure that doesn't exist for our opponents. Number one, in the scout, they're not afraid. Number two, when they step on the court, and Maybe there's some uncontested threes early in the game.
What do you think?
They're not afraid. That's where I would often bring up, at times there's randomness in basketball, not quite as random as baseball per se. But, if you got a kid who's a career 31% three-point shooter and he's 6 of 10 in the first half, that's a little unlucky. You got unlucky. But unfortunately for this particular team, this year, nobody's afraid to shoot against us because they're going to be open.
They can't wait.
They're going to be open, and there's no game pressure because they're blowing us out. So, they get to 75% from three late in the first half, NC State. They start the game with 4 consecutive threes last night. Nobody's afraid to play us. Now, if you play the old Florida State team and there's a wide open look because of the collapsing nature of the defense, there is pressure on you. You've got to make that. Because if you don't, that's an empty possession. Here they go the other way, and you need to make those critical shots. There are no critical shots if you're the opponent. No critical shots here last night. No big deal. You're just having fun.
Large margin of victory for the Wolfpack in the 62-game series. I mean, that again, there are a lot of numbers that leap off the page. Usually, I'm just highlighting something you just highlighted, which is the opponents having opportunities to bomb away with nobody in their face, and it's like a practice from beyond the arc. But, you're setting some dubious records here, series records and things of that ilk. It just makes it hard. I hate it. I hate everything about it. It's not a quick fix. I don't know what you do. It's going to have to be a transfer portal deal. But you're right. There are so many other question marks surrounding, what happens moving forward after this embarrassment.
Well, the place it's gone it's several steps. It's, oh, come on. Of course he's going to get another year, maybe a couple more years. That's insulting. Don't bring that up too. Man, they better get it together here because things are starting to tighten up a little bit too. Boy, if they keep this up, it's hard to bring him back for one more year. Because if you go through another 3 to 4 weeks and there are historic losses in series history.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm down. I'm depressed. It really makes me sad. I have nothing but immense respect for the man and the coach that is Leonard Hamilton. Immense respect. I know how hard he has worked. I know what he has accomplished. And I know who he is. And for people who do, and that includes the other coaches across the board in that athletic department, you can't have anything but immense love and respect for Leonard Hamilton. And yet, the reality of the situation is that basketball team is terrible. They were terrible last year. After a while, you can say, well, look, the circumstances, they were unlucky. That's true. That's true. But at some point here, we're going to get in on 3 and 4 years of, oh, well, they're terrible again. And now you have a really difficult path to ever bring it back. I said, whenever it was 2 years ago, I guess, that not only was I devastated that they didn't get the opportunity to make the run that they had built towards, they would have made a run. I believe there was a really good chance they were going to the Final Four. And once you're in the Final Four, you have an opportunity to maybe win a national championship. All right, well, regardless if you agreed with that or not, there were several people around the country who were basketball analysts, including Dick Vitale and others, who really thought that team could win the national championship. So if you want to yell at the radio, hey, you're a homer, of course you thought that. Well, there were a lot of people who don't care anything about Florida State who thought it as well. They were deep. They were talented. They had a good mental makeup. They were tough. There were a lot of things about them. They were skilled. So that didn't happen. And then the worst thing that could happen is that the younger assistants who really helped rejuvenate Leonard, and I think certainly helped in recruiting because it was a nice balance between the wisdom and the father figure that is Ham and the young and up-and-coming coaches on the staff. They had a nice balance to it. Recruits loved it. You had the young up-and-coming coaches that they could relate to the players well, and then you had the father figure in Leonard Hamilton and Stan Jones, who's also a father figure in that way. So you had a perfect mix, the young and the old, and kids responded to it. Parents responded to it. They were able to get kids in here, but it didn't happen. And then because of the pandemic, and then you lose the coaches that I'm talking about. You lose Gates, you lose CY. And when you lose those guys, now you lost elite recruiters and an aspect of your coaching staff that created the balance that I'm referencing. And I worried at the time, said it, guys, I hate this. I hate saying this out loud. Kind of my job. But I don't think we're ever going to get back to where we were. The writing is on the wall. Now, some other things happened that I could not have predicted, and I don't like being right about this. But some other things happened, and it's expedited the process. They got screwed by the NCAA. They had a bunch of guys get hurt again. I mean, all that's true. But at the end of the day, this was humiliating. And I know nobody is paying attention for two reasons. The team's terrible. Okay, so I got that you're not exactly locked in on a nightly basis. But for those who do care about the fight and the game effort and whether or not they're going to end the season with something of an uptick to give you some hope going into next year, maybe some tweaking instead of a massive rebuild or overhaul. So you're kind of watching these games, you're thinking, well, at the very least, I got to see. I mean, if you're done in the garden goal, I got to see that you're fighting for it. You got to care about. You got to have enough pride in yourself, your coaches, and your teammates that you're going to go out and play. You got to play hard. But when I don't see that, well, we got real problems. Now you have serious question marks about what you do moving forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's about the toughness. That's what doesn't sit well. Is even the team that got bounced by Michigan on the precipice of going to new heights, the team that wasn't allowed to play due to the pandemic, they weren't out tough. Either of those teams.
Ever.
And they're a couple of the predecessors before that. You know,
of course.
There was the year with Xavier. That was the problem. That was Mac's only real victory, it felt like, over Ham, where you felt like, oh, man, you were taught a lesson that day on what it means and what it takes to be tough enough in the tournament. From that point on, through the pandemic, nobody was as tough, or nobody was tougher. There were teams as tough, but you weren't going to lose in that category. And then when you see the rollover effect, I mean, the first 50 points that are earned last night, you get 10 of them. I don't care how stripped down the roster is. You can't only have 10 of the first 50 points of the game.
Well, it can't constantly be 24-4. Like every time we look up, the score is 20-6, 24-4, 26-7. It's like bizarre. Like, are we not prepared to play a damn game?
We'll go toe-to-toe and we're down 20. I mean, great.
Yeah. I mean, what it does is it shows you that the outlier, and I know why it was the outlier in retrospect, because they really shot it well for whatever reason. The outlier was the Pitt game. That wasn't an indicator of what was to come. Instead, it was an outlier. They just made a lot of shots that night. They don't make a lot of shots. They certainly didn't last night. And the opponent does. The opponent consistently does.
That's where the stats can lie to you, because they shoot a good percentage for the night. But in the formative moments of the game, as in the first 10 minutes, first 8 minutes of the ball game.
Yeah, you got to watch the game. You got to watch the game.
Exactly.
You know,
6-minute drought, that's not going to help. You could shoot well after that, because guess what? Again, the opponent's having just a good old night. 9 p.m. tip, no problem. It's going to be a fun Wednesday night here.
I will say this. Let me put one final little spin on this here that does give you hope. The team that just trounced your ass last night, NC State, did go out in the portal and get much better guards. And you can see that improvement. Pitt did too. Pitt's totally turned it around as well. Those are two teams. Those are two good examples of teams that went out in the transfer portal and got kids to come in and totally changed the makeup of their team. So it's possible to go do that. Pitt's not exactly tradition laden, and they were able to go do it. So if you're looking for somebody akin to us, there you go.
Oh, and again, he's reinvented the wheel already here at Florida State. So it can happen. But my concern is that there is a threshold in which you've gone too far. And I don't like that we're barreling towards it right now.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
looks like the brake line is cut. We've got the e-brake, but if we pull the e-brake and it doesn't work, I don't know. I don't know how this vehicle stops.
Well, and you're saddened by a couple of things here. You go through this. Okay. Look, let's just say it. You've got some guys that aren't developing as fast as you'd like. You got some guys that haven't taken the next step. You got some guys that I don't think can be on the roster of a good team. I'm just going to put it that way. There's a couple guys that get playing time on this team that aren't capable at this level.
But you don't have.
They really shouldn't be out there.
You don't have, and I'm not talking about skill. You don't have a Bernard James. You don't have a Tony D. You don't have a Derwin. No. You don't have Terrence.
Corin comes the closest.
But can he lead right now?
No. I mean, listen.
That's what I'm
he's
talking
a freshman. He's a freshman.
A tone setter. You don't have that guy right now. Clearly. Because it can't get as bad. I mean, I see in the chat too. So the first 45, they scored 37. 37-8 last night. 37-8.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how stripped down the roster. You've got enough good players here. You've got enough.
If they're fighting, if they're playing
fighting,
hard, if they're
tough.
playing tough, yeah, no, they don't have a lot. I don't want to overstate what they do have. Our fan base tends to. I get emails all the time about how good Caleb Mills is and how good Darren Green is and how good Worley's going to be. Man,
I'm judging it against 37-8.
Well,
I'm not asking,
and this ain't the only one.
I'm not asking for 30-20 Noles. I'm saying 37. It doesn't have to be. There's no excuse for that. And now that's happened multiple times in the last calendar year. Come on now.
It's ugly. It's ugly. And they could not have predicted that. I mean, now listen, again, it stinks with the Gainey injury that really affected them. Nobody's ignoring that. I don't want people to think I'm oblivious to the fact that they really did get a bad break before this season, losing your stopper, your rim protector, the guy that was going to rebound and block shots, who had proven himself to be able and capable of that. That's awful. That stinks. So that hurt him. And then, of course, the 16-game suspension
He's
hurt
back
him.
now.
I know. It does. I mean, I'm really worried that what we see of him is all we're ever going to see. I mean, he could decide. He could decide to head back to Spain. He could play ball for Real Madrid's basketball team. They could. He may not want to stick around for this. This is a nightmare. Now, he strikes me as a really good kid.
Yeah, I agree.
And a hard worker and a kid who's bought in. So I'm not saying he's going to leave, but he could.
And exactly lighting it up in the film department. That would be an NBA combine workout that would get him drafted. Not necessarily what's going on here as of yet. But he could be a player that helps turn it around if you need to do a little purge and portal action, a little 1-2 punch. That he seems like a type of player. You're right about Corin. I mean, it's just that
you got to go get some guards. They don't have anybody that can stay in front of anybody. And
they're not likable. It's that. I mean, unfortunately, this team was always likable even when they failed, because for the 1.0 existence of Leonard Hamilton's tenure here, they played over their heads. They didn't have the skill, but they had the will defensively to put you in position to win basketball games. So that group, for that reason, might have been boring, but they were likable because they got the most out of themselves. Are they getting the most out of themselves right now?
Well, they're probably going through the motions, as I said, and at this point, they've packed it in, and so these games get uglier and uglier and tougher to view. Florida State, the football team, improved more than 70% in production on 7 of the 10 NCAA categories in PFF last year. That's an insane number.
Gene and I did a video on it, but he did the whole breakdown in terms of NCAA stat improvement and then also PFF grade improvement.
Yeah, and I want to talk about it because we didn't talk about it yesterday, so let's talk about it next. Jeff Cambridge, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Hi, Chris Kraft for the Kraft Brothers dealerships. You're getting a tax refund?
What's up, guys? Our next partner that you're going to hear from is Athletic Greens. You've heard me talk about Athletic Greens in the past. Happy to talk about them again. I take Athletic Greens every day. And I gave them a try because certainly I wanted more energy, sustained energy. I wanted to support my immune system. I don't like taking pills and vitamins per se. And I wanted something that tasted good too. And the first time I tried it, I was very surprised. It had an appreciable effect on my energy levels. And also, over time, you'll note that it helps your skin, your hair, your nails. I don't have a lot of hair, but if I did, I bet I could feel that. I bet I could tell. It's a comprehensive health habit, and it is a powerful one at that. AG1 is great for recovery. That's Athletic Greens. And I take mine basically when I wake up every morning. I don't have to worry about it because you get all the nutrients that you want. It's the best way to ensure that you're going to get all of your vitamins. It's a carbon-neutral business, by the way, if that's important to you. It is to a lot of people, and that's good to know as well. I would also note that it is a comprehensive solution to what you need from a supplement routine. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs right now with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/JCS. Helps me out, guys, if you use that. Not financially, but it lets them know that you heard this ad on my show. And I do take it, and I am vouching for them because I enjoy their product. athleticgreens.com/JCS. Check it out. I think you'll note the difference in your life with a simple drink each and every morning to start your day. athleticgreens.com/JCS. Plus, our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hi, this is Jamie McClenny from Trek Financial in Tallahassee. Managing downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement. Trillions of dollars in stimulus from the Federal Reserve and D.C. politicians, combined with zero interest rates, have propped up financial markets since the financial crisis ended in 2009. The Fed recently ended quantitative easing and has started to raise interest rates at a time when the global economy was already slowing. Have you considered what another 50% correction in the stock market would do to your retirement plan? If you're concerned about where this all might be headed and would like to find out about the potential benefits of an active risk management strategy for your portfolio, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule a time for a review of your portfolio from an active risk management perspective.
Make Jamie your first call for a second opinion. Investment advisory services are offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Hey Tallahassee, it's Sarah with Seminole Auto Glass. You're probably driving right now, which means you're surrounded by glass. Did you know that each piece is made differently? Your windshield is 2 sheets of glass with a thin plastic in between. This allows it to take an impact without going all the way through. Side and back glasses are typically tempered. This strengthening process is what allows them to be shattered in the event of emergency. Regardless of the glass or how it breaks, we can help. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass, proudly serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. Better call Seminole.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
I'm on a good run here, Tom. I just want you to know that once again, this could be my day at the end of day one out there at Pebble. I have Hoagie, who is -3 through 6. I have Maverick McNeely, who's -3 through 5. And I have Scott Stallings, who's 200 through 7.
Who had a great season last year.
So, buddy, I'm just letting you know 3 of my 5 or my 6 here are rolling on Big River. It's early yet.
Did Scott Stallings keep the mustache this year? Because he looked like he looked like one of those weightlifters from the 1920 carnival photos.
Yeah,
it
was great,
shirts.
wasn't it? Yeah. A lot of volatility in this field here. You can take guys. If we're talking about odds, this would be the week where if you wanted to gamble, you go 50 to 100 to 1, like 50 to 1 to 100 to 1, like whatever that group looks like. Take all those guys, and maybe one stud. Take like Spieth if you want, because of course history. But you could do that. And then everybody else you sprinkle in are these 50 to 1, 60 to 1, 70 to 1 guys.
Did you play any Knowles? There are 3 of them out there.
No, I didn't play any Knowles. Jonas is out there. Did you know that? He's 100 through 2.
Really?
Blixty still hanging in there.
Good for him. I knew that Pack was out there. It's a big week for John Pack.
It is a big week for John Pack. Vincent Norman is looking like the guy that's going to have the best chance to succeed early on tour. At one point last week, he was in second place in the tournament. Now, that's a tough course, and he didn't hold up.
No, he fell to pieces.
I will tell you that a lot of guys that were hanging around up there for a day or two fell to pieces. It wasn't just him. A lot of veteran players. When the weather gets cold there, it's hard. It's a hard course, and you can't be out of place there. You got to know where to hit.
The PGA tries so hard to prop this event up, and it just annoys the hell out of me, because on Pro Bowl weekend, which is code for a nothing weekend, there's no football of any. I mean, they're doing a flag football game now.
Yeah, they are, which is actually smart. Yeah,
you can't give me a better tournament than the Pebble Pro-Am on Pro Bowl weekend. Come on now, give me the WM.
But next week they give you you get Waste Management next week.
I know,
and it's awesome.
It concludes just before the Super Bowl.
Right,
Actually,
it's
it makes for a
perfect.
good Sunday.
It does.
Nice little 1-2.
It's an awesome Sunday, and that's why they do that. They got to kind of put this here, I guess. I mean,
switch the Genesis here. Get Tigers tournament on during Pro Bowl weekend.
yeah, I don't love. Now, listen, I'm a bit of a nut. I watch all of these, and I gamble on all of them.
Like,
and I can watch Thursday. I can watch Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love it all. It's awesome to me, but I get that this is not a great draw.
There's a nice 67 for Bo Hostler. Well, he's playing Spyglass today. Remember that. So it'll be a much tougher day tomorrow on Pebble. Thanks. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Oh, that's an aside. All right, I teased it, so let's talk about it. The PFF categories 2021-2022, with a reminder that the stats and grades compiled by Pro Football Focus, yes, in this situation, do denote remarkable improvement for Florida State, but aren't everything, and I'm aware of that. It's not shocking to see the offensive grades and where Florida State, how much better Florida State is. But it is shocking to see the extent that the offense, for example, improved, Tom. When you went through this, were you, like, when you see you go from, 96th to 7th, are you a little bit blown away?
I was a little blown away by 96th, like just in review. That was hard to fathom. Were we that bad? I mean,
we weren't good.
Because we were explosive. We were explosive the previous year.
We weren't good, buddy. we struggled. You had to hope for the occasional, oh, look at that. We schemed it up and got a long run here. That's how that went.
That was the strange thing about those PFF grades, as I recall, was that the run grade was high, but then the run block grade was cratered low.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, we were a feast and famine type of team.
So to be 7th, that feels about right. By the end of the season, when you're watching a lot of other games, in November, it's easier to watch other games because the playoff picture is becoming clearer, so you know which ones to pick. And I'm looking around at all these teams in the top 10, and I'm saying that offense ain't as good, or if it is, it's only equal to Florida State. Aren't many offenses better than ours?
So I would tell you that this upcoming season, where it gets interesting is that we have the chance to be better as a pass rush unit, and we have a chance to be better in coverage. If you're looking defensively, I keep saying all the pressure is on the defense. They didn't improve all that much in those categories at all. They weren't better tackling last year than they were the previous year. These are all defensive areas where I think they can be a lot better. They went backwards in their overall ranking defensively. Offensively, almost across the board, they were better. The lone exception is they were dreadfully bad in pass protection. Down 30 spots. Did you buy that?
It was funny. Gene and I went through that. At first blush, I didn't. But then if you think of Pro Football Focus likes to penalize specific plays, splash plays in a big way.
Yes, they do.
So if you drop a pass, your receiving grade, really, you have to do a whole lot to make up for a dropped pass. Or if you fumble the ball as a running back, it penalizes you.
Yeah.
The sack fumble against was a big deal this year. It happened multiple times, key situations. NC State was one of those. Clemson.
It also doesn't take into account situations.
Correct. The second half, that's the other thing I pointed out, is in garbage time, and there was a lot of that for the Noles for good reason this year. If Tate is flushed out of the pocket, or A.J. Duffy in his brief window, if you got problems with that second to third string offensive line, they're going to grade it equally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't grade situationally.
They grade UMass the same way they grade Clemson.
Correct.
So that's a limitation on their rankings as well. But then if you're looking for evidence that pass blocking got worse, the Florida game's a good example. They could have had about 6 sacks on like one play.
This is where Jordan Travis saves your ass.
Yeah.
If you have an immobile quarterback, this is really going to be highlighted. The reason it feels like the number doesn't make sense is because you're not recalling too many times where people came unfettered and hit Jordan. You can remember lots of times where people got pressure, but he ultimately made them miss and oftentimes turned it into a spectacular success. Either bought time by making a guy miss and then completed a pass, or in the case of some of these games, just ran wild and did things that, most mortals can't do at quarterback. So maybe people don't realize that was an area of weakness, and in fact that it regressed a little bit. I think it'll be better this year.
I agree. That's the low-key truth about this offensive line is that it got to average to slightly above average to go along with good play calling and a balanced offense with a quarterback who's dual threat.
And
so
yeah,
that
the
rises
quarterback,
all boats.
Yeah, and the quarterback did take a huge step forward with pre-snap.
Correct.
So that helped too.
So I think they got to an average level to above average. They could be better. This offensive line could be a whole lot better.
Well, when we have the discussion that you and I have had about is Florida State championship level depth, are they great? They have overcome areas of weakness because they have a guy who turned into Superman in a lot of games this year, and they did get better and deeper and more diverse in terms of the skill set at wide receiver. Well, I think obviously this year, when you're talking about some of the experience that comes in on the offensive line and the ability to block it up better, another year in the system, now you add these tight ends to the mix, and you do have a loaded backfield. Yeah, I think this offense can take another step forward. That's why you talk about, I've said before, I don't think that they're going to be the problem. And you said, well, there is pressure on them because they improved so much in the points per game and all that stuff. Man, I just think they have so many answers. Just go out and execute. I think they'll execute better. The numbers will take care of themselves if you just go out and execute with the talent that you have. I don't see how that can't happen.
I agree in theory.
Yeah, injuries or whatever.
But you get hit in the mouth right away with a good test. And so you better know what you are going into that game and not be trying to establish what you're going to be. You have so many holdovers that it shouldn't be an issue. And Lord knows there was enough receiving yards and catches out there for both of the tight ends, Marquise and Cam. And there were a couple opportunities that we lament. One of them was in the LSU game, a seam pass that was one of Jordan's best of the year.
Yeah.
It's still, it had staying power. He made a lot of great throws.
I'm mad about that still. I couldn't believe that drop.
If that's Jaheim Bell, that's coming down, man.
Yeah.
That's catch. And it's a big play.
And all of that said, we did go from, 95 to 6.
Correct.
In terms of the grade for receivers. Now, that receiving core can get more consistent. There's just no doubt about that. You see some wild inconsistencies, even for the better players within that group.
Yeah, I'd say actually it hurts to lose Pokey. After all these years that he's been here since just after we won the national title.
Did anybody do more for his historic stock than Pokey Wilson in this final year? Like the amount of times he showed up in big moments on a big stage in a big game with all the lights shining bright. Like even games that became one-sided, like the Miami game, it's Pokey that hits the catch just
early.
That play is huge, sets the tone. It's early and it's gets you some, and here comes a lot more.
And some of those were very tough catches, too.
Yeah.
Contested catches that you got to fight through and be tough.
But the LSU game, you go on and on.
He's the offensive LaMarcus Brutus. We now have our guy on offense where we say, well, hot damn.
He's a testament to sticking with it, getting better, having a good attitude, working through it, being frustrated knowing that I can do more. I wish they would trust me to do more. I wish this team were better at blocking up. I'd have an opportunity to do more. But I'm not leaving. I'm not going to bitch and pout and not go and do all the things I can to put myself in a position. Like, he deserves credit for that because a lot of guys don't do it. I lament that all the time. It's easier now to leave than ever before. And in some cases, I get why guys leave. In other cases, I think it's rash and impulsive, and young people tend to be impulsive anyhow. And so now that you have options, when that impulse strikes you and you're frustrated and you are 95th in receiving, according to PFF, you might choose to leave, but he didn't. 96. You might choose to leave, and he didn't, and man, was he rewarded. I love it. I love what that represents.
One of the shocking stats to me, and I have a hard time eye test marrying. I think that this has to do with overwhelmed quarterbacks on the other sideline, this past season, backups, injuries, what have you. The pass rush grade is equal to the year prior. So you're telling me that from a PFF standpoint, 81.1 is what we got as a pass rush grade with Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas. It's the same? It's the same? It didn't get worse? I find that hard to believe. We weren't as good rushing the passer last year as we were 2 years ago. It's just not.
We didn't have any singular dominating element like we did with Jermaine Johnson because Verse was playing hurt a lot of times. And on the other side, you have an emerging star. You do.
Yeah. Oh, look. Patrick Payton.
I'm saying Payton
in a big way.
But Payton flashed, but he wasn't consistent. So I guess you could.
But you look at those numbers that Kier and Jermaine put up in the tackles for loss department, the sack department, total tackles, like the influence that they had in the game from the pass rushing position, all downs. We didn't match that last year. And we improved 3 spots in PFF's overall grade because, again, this is all individualized year by year. They would say, that would say on its face, we got better rushing the passer in 2022 over 2021. There's no way, no how. No way, no how. Now, they can be better this year. It'll be interesting to see how Edmond fits into the puzzle. A more veteran in the training room, lifting weights, Patrick Payton to go along with Jared Verse. McClendon is still in that shuffle in the top 4 as well. You can be better rushing the passer this year. Those stats say we got better relative to the competition.
Well,
think about Jared Verse. We did not.
Well, I mean, think about, there are some games that allow for that. The Georgia Tech game, the Boston College game, the Syracuse game. I mean, there's a lot of teams that got overwhelmed. Think about this. You knocked the quarterback out in the NC State game. I mean, so that the grades for their attack that night had to be high for the defense, despite our frustrations, and low for NC State's offense, without question. So there are a lot of games where you could circle and just be like, well, that we did blow 7 teams out this past year.
Correct. And that is, look, we couldn't even blow out anybody beyond UMass the year prior. So that is a step in the right direction. I'm just saying that Pro Football Focus does not adjust for opponent. And the back half of the schedule was littered with injured and backup quarterbacks.
Bad teams.
Bad teams, too.
Took advantage of it, beat them down.
Did what you were supposed
dominated,
to do.
But they're still bad teams. Which is, again,
what
why
would
I
Jermaine
said,
and Kier have done against that same, schedule? It would have been one of the top teams in the country.
Correct. And this is also why I said on yesterday's show, when we were talking, having some fun with W's and L's and going through all of that, you could come at it and be very pragmatic, and you could be right on both accounts. You could say, for example, hey, look, man, Florida State beat one really good team last year, and that was LSU. That's the one really good team they played. That team went on to be good in the SEC. It was a good team, and we beat that team.
And they handled the game flow as well.
Yes.
I'm not going to say game control, but you look at the middle.
Yeah, they were the better team.
They were the better team.
They were the better team.
It would have been a fluke result if we had lost.
Yeah. So that was the significant victory of the season, as it turned out. You played 3 other good teams, and you lost all 3 of them. So there's so much room for improvement.
You lost to a bad team. That NC State team that night wasn't that good.
Well, no, they weren't. But, I mean, relative at the time, what they were.
Sure,
of
course, yeah.
So those 3 teams, okay, fine. You still have a long way to go. Now, the question is, do you think they'll get there? Because if you do, well, then fine, then you're going to project a gaudy record. If you don't, then obviously you say you think they're going to lose 3 games.
We can vet this, too, as we've got a long way. It's only February. We've got some time here. But is there another landmine? Is this a thing where once a year we're going to have a landmine game like J-State or like NC State where you inexplicably find a way to lose the football game, given the circumstances?
Well, I would suggest this.
Well, when you're trying to shoot for a playoff, that matters. That's going to be the difference between playoff and no playoff if the answer is yes or no to that question.
Also, though, remember this. Georgia won the national championship last year. Georgia should have lost to Missouri last year. We watched that game.
If Georgia did, they still would have been in the playoff, and they still would have won the national title.
That's my point.
I don't know that we get that strike.
Right, but I'm saying there are countless examples of elite teams that have 2 games a year where you're like, whoa, what is happening here? Why are they? It just happens. You're dealing with young football players. It's not professional football. It's getting closer, but it's not. And I think you see this sometimes. It's very rare to see what we saw in 2013. What we saw in 2013 was a dismantling of our opponents every week, save for the final one against Auburn. It was ass-kicking central.
It's totally fair.
It's very rare, though.
It's just that our reputation is not what it was, and this conference doesn't have the clout of the SEC. So when you're trying, you're going to have to compare resumes.
You can't afford to drop a game with this schedule that isn't either to LSU or Clemson. Everybody else probably gets you knocked out of the playoff contention. I guess
unless you beat both LSU.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you go 11-1, I guess you could lose to anybody and you'd still probably be in playoff contention. If you go on to win the ACC championship, you probably would still be in contention, just like TCU was. But, I mean, yeah.
If it's Duke, if it's Pitt on the road.
We'll see what Pitt is. Pitt's kind of the X factor. We're not real sure what that Pitt team is going to be. It'll be our luck that they're really good, and we're going to have to play up there in November during that stretch of games where, you would say that your stiffest competition is happening.
We're going to dismiss Miami so much at that point. Oh, boy, this is it, guys. The roadie to Pitt. Then we get some relief for the next 2 weeks, and we play Florida.
That's the fun part of all of this, is to sit here and we're in the midst of talking about the game that we don't know is the one that's going to stand out that we're nervous about, and none of us are thinking about Miami. Cheeks. That's what Miami is. We're just kind of like, well, I don't know. Duke could be a problem. Pitt's interesting.
Maybe the Wake roadie.
Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Survival Flight has been operating out of Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare for a year now. In that time, crews have saved hundreds of patients in the North Florida and South Georgia region. The helicopter ride can save precious time for patients experiencing trauma. What would normally be an hour ambulance ride on the ground is cut down to a 20-minute ride to TMH in the helicopter. TMH plans to continue educating surrounding communities about Survival Flight being available for critical medical emergencies. The family of a Florida man who has been missing for several years has finally gotten an answer as to where he has been. On Thursday, the Suwannee County Sheriff's Office confirmed that human remains found in early December belonged to John Frank Carlisle, who was 40 years old when he vanished in 2018. Carlisle was last seen in Suwannee County. Several people reported seeing him at the Keg Room Bar off State Road 247 on April 26th. His remains were found in a wooded area not far away. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun this afternoon with a high of 75. Winds out of the south, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Tonight, lows dip down to about 54. Overcast skies. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Tomorrow, daytime highs approaching 61. Cloudy skies. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 73.
Hey everybody, the perfect fireplace makes your house a home. How's your fireplace looking? Not too well? Hearth and Patio can help you with that. Actually, Hearth and Patio can help you with anything fire. Give my friends a call at Hearth and Patio. If you need new fireplace upgrade, fireplace repair, you need custom outdoor kitchen, grills, or an amazing fireplace for your backyard. 850-727-4282. That's 850-727-4282. Or you can visit them online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Hearth Patio Tallahassee. They keep the home fires burning.
My man, Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinking. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Greg Tish here along with
Matty Rowe.
And you can listen to us Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3. Matt, we give away a couple things each week.
Just a few.
We've got the Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Wheel of Food. We have Give Me a Second, where we play a second of a song and you guess that song. And we also play FLA or Nay. We have a lot of fun Monday through Friday, 6 a.m., 9 a.m. on
The Greg Tish Show.
Think it's enough?
We can talk about our feelings.
There's a lot.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
This is a good. Keep stepping on it or rolling the tire of the seat over it. It's absurd. And then the reaction, really the problem isn't that it's less coordination. It's that when there's a folly, when you do something silly, you're not paying attention, you turn and hit something or whatever. I'll tell you what happens, what changes is your reaction becomes violent. Like, because you don't trust it. So you're like, ah! Like you think something disastrous is going to happen because you screwed something up or you're knocking something over. It's ridiculous.
So you're saying that that's something that's age related?
I think so. I think so.
That makes sense. Think about how many old people as a child and as you grew up would yell at you, be careful. Don't step over there. You're going to fall.
Well, because
what do you mean? Step right here? Ooh.
Yeah, the repercussions for falling changes greatly from the age of, say, 25 to 55 or so. You get nervous when you get up there. I never thought about any of these things in my 40s. So it's kind of like now I just bumped this mic as I was turning with the headset, and I was like, ah! Get your hands up, Cameron.
Two Novembers.
Up.
2 Novembers ago when we played in the beach volleyball golf tournament here in town, there was a setup on one of the holes that you could play against the team, and you donate, you play. If you score a point, you get all this stuff because you're not going to score a point. You're just not. And I dove to make a play, and I made a play to keep the ball alive, keep the rally alive.
Yeah.
Got back to the cart, and it occurred to me, oh my God, I probably shouldn't have done that.
And you're young enough.
Well, mid-30s is a little questionable.
I mean, it's
a little slam on the hip.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, that never did that before, where there's like a little tinge in the hip.
You've got a better chance of like breaking your arm or, things of that ilk, as opposed to the broken hip is the last gasp of the very old. And that usually leads directly to the grave. We're coming a little bit further along, though. I will tell you that. I know a couple old people in recent years that broke a hip and then rallied back miraculously. The other thing that happens to old people...
You get replacements now before it happens.
Other thing that happened, the thing I used to think about, and now it's the last of these that I'll caution. I used to laugh at this because it happens every year around Christmas time. Somebody that you kind of know, or somebody that that knew this person, it's at a distance usually, hopefully, because if you've had to experience it directly, I'm sorry, that's sad. But somebody falls off the roof putting on the Christmas lights.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening frequently. All the time, people just falling off their roofs and doing serious damage. And so because of that, now I got up on my roof this year and did it, but my wife was pleading with me. You don't need to get up on the roof. Why are you going to? I'm like, I'm not an invalid. I can get up on the roof. I can get up on the roof with the best of them. She's like, no, but if you fall off the roof, that situation is much worse now.
Yeah, I think what this segment is therapy, and you're coming to the conclusion your subconscious is forcing you to realize you can't do it this year. Because you just said, coming out of break, when things go wrong, there's a violent reaction. So imagine it's always 85 degrees when you're hanging up your Christmas stuff anyway.
Unfortunately.
There's a bee or a wasp that gets right near your eye.
Something you can't foresee, and then that's how people go stumbling off the roof.
In your age with the violent reaction, that's it. That's ball game. You're going down.
But if you go up there with the thought, don't overreact. It's like when you're teaching your kids to drive.
That's denial. That's pride.
When you're teaching your kids to drive, you got to tell them that you can't overreact, can't overcorrect. You overcorrect, we got a problem. This is going careening off the road.
Did you have proper driving lessons? Did you ever go to one of those schools, or were you taught by a
in high school it was offered. You took driver's ed. You just did driver's ed. And the thing about driver's ed is that I feel like that should be mandatory, right? Like everybody's got to. You should take driver's ed. I mean, it stands to reason.
I had a teacher where you had to slap the magnet on the back of the car.
Yeah.
Best piece of advice he ever gave me. He says, when you're changing lanes, never slow down. Accelerate when you're changing lanes. It just sounds simple, but then you get in the car with so many of the people and they're like, oh, I gotta they're Brady Hoke. Gonna change the lane, and they pull their foot off the gas. What are you doing?
I've also stated numerous times, guys, that it is not, this is for adults. I see this all the time. It is not necessary for you to turn out wide in order to make a turn. Just make the turn. I'm assuming you don't have some jalopy that doesn't have power steering or something. You've got a modern vehicle. You can make the turn.
Also, as somebody who takes the interstate every day, you need to accelerate as you're merging. there is a circumstance, 1 in 10, where you've got to do some maneuvering and braking and stuff. Otherwise, you just hit it and you go. The on-ramp is one of the great places on the road.
You know why?
Because you could just gun
it's the gateway to leaving the starting line. It is, yes, I'm going to punch it. And I have a turbo, so for me, when I get on that lane, it's like, get you some. Here it comes. I love it.
The one Mahan entering westbound I-10 is tremendous because it's just a thin little lane. It looks like your own little driving course.
Let's go. I love that part of it. Why do people ruin that by slowing way down? If you're too frightened to be on the interstate, you shouldn't be on the interstate.
I will time it out. If I'm behind somebody in the turn lane to get to the on-ramp and I'm there, I've got time to cross right behind him. If I judge your car to be that of somebody who's going to go slow,
who's afraid,
I profile cars.
Oh, I profile the age of the driver too.
Yep. If you got an old Cadillac, you're an old driver, there's no way. I'm giving you a 10-second head start because I'm not getting stuck out here.
Oh, it's my ass out the wind, buddy.
Yeah,
we're going 36 miles per hour because you refuse to gun it. No, that's not happening. It's fun. Getting on the interstate is fun. Here we go. Enough of this nonsense. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Thank you for calling the Medicare Help Desk. How can we help you?
Can you help me choose the right coverage for myself and my wife?
We sure can. We can help you choose from Medicare Supplements, Medicare Advantage, or standalone prescription drug plans from over 30 different insurance carriers.
How much does it cost? We have a fixed income and can't afford extra expenses.
At the Medicare Help Desk, the consultation is completely free. We are here to help.
Thank you, Medicare Help Desk.
Hi, this is Justin Colvin, founder of the Medicare Help Desk. In my 17 years of experience, I routinely speak to seniors who are overwhelmed by the multitude of coverage options available to them. That's why I created the Medicare Help Desk, a place for you to get clear answers to all your questions and make sense of all the confusion. I've helped thousands of clients, and I live right here in Tallahassee with my family. I am active in my church and wish to help and serve my community. If you need help navigating the Medicare landscape, I'm easy to find. Just visit the MedicareHelpDesk.com. That's the MedicareHelpDesk.com.
Hey, this is Greg Tish. Here's something you might know about me. I don't drink coffee. I have never had a cup of coffee in my life. Well, that is until now. So why change now? Well, it's because my dear friend at Grassroots Coffee reached out to me after hearing me say that and insisted that I give his product a try. I've been making a huge mistake. The world of coffee is fascinating. I always thought coffee is coffee, you know? No, it's not. I have tried their coffee and it is fantastic. Now, I've got a fascination with learning more about the best coffee in our area. Grassroots Coffee is locally roasted, locally owned, and locally loved. You can find whole bean Grassroots Coffee on the local aisle at Publix, also in Whole Foods. But the best way to get this black gold is to order it online. They literally grind the fresh roasted beans to your preferred level, bag it, write the date on it by hand so you know the exact day your coffee was roasted. It doesn't get any more fresh than that. Order yours now. Just go to grassrootscoffee.com and choose the coffee you want and how you want it, and join me. Let's step up our coffee game together and also support a great local business.
This is Dr. James Ryan Finn.
And Dr. Shannon Lord.
We are the dynamic duo at Finn Chiropractic, where we seek to get to the cause of your problem.
Whether you have neck pain, back pain, headaches, or any joint stiffness,
we've developed the Phenomenal Health Exam with some high-tech ways to get to the cause.
Our Phenomenal Health Exam will give the answers you need.
Get in for the Phenomenal Health Evaluation.
Visit our website at finnchiro.com, FENNCHIRO.com.
Because your chiropractor loves you.
There's nothing you can do about it.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee. The latest betting odds and line movements from Vegas. This is your action update. Now here are your latest lines from our guys in the desert.
Florida Gators upset number 2 Tennessee 67-54, winning by 13 as a 5-point underdog. The win paid out plus 180 on the money line. The Gators visiting Kentucky on Saturday. Florida State falls as a 9-point dog at NC State. The Wolfpack run past the Seminoles 94-66. North Florida today, a 7.5-point dog at Jacksonville at Swisher Gymnasium. The Ospreys have lost 13 of 14 on the road this year. Super Bowl 57, a week from Sunday, Philadelphia laying 1.5 against Kansas City. The total has been bet up to 50.5.
Sign up now for your free VSiN subscription at vsin.com/subscribe. For more sports betting news and information, go to vsin.com. Mike Sennett, Real Talk 93.3.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Milk, eggs, $42. Ma'am, you okay?
Need bucks? With Jackson Hewitt, don't wait weeks for the IRS to send your tax refund. Come in now for up to $3,500 with a no-interest, no-fee refund advance loan when you file your taxes. That's up to $3,500 today. Don't let high prices get you down. When every dollar matters, it matters who does your taxes. So get to Jackson Hewitt today. For eligible clients, loans by Republic Bank and Trust Company. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Give your business a facelift with a modern, consistent, creative brand overhaul from Curiosity Marketing Group. These days, it's not enough for your business just to have a standard website or a Google listing to reach your customers. Your business needs to stand out with eye-popping branding, modern web development, and strong marketing. And it takes a team to pull it all together. Words and websites matter. At Curiosity, we make the most of yours. Find out more at curiositymg.com.
I used to fight almost on a daily basis working on my business website. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I could never get it to function the way I needed it to, and I was losing customers because of it. That's when I called Curiosity Marketing. They listened, they understood, we collaborated, and in the end, they delivered beyond my highest expectations. Now, I can barely keep up with the work. They say the future belongs to the curious, and now I'm excited about the future of my business.
Find out more at curiositymg.com.
We understand how important it is to have transportation you can rely on. So no matter what the road ahead brings, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for over 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise.
I'm Andy Cohen with Florida Farm Bureau Insurance. Please call me at 850-671-FARM.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Jamie Robinson. Actually, a big picture thing to note here with Jamie Robinson. I was reading a scouting report, and Tom, I thought this worked perfect for him. I actually like the Senior Bowl. Just if you guys couldn't tell, I actually kind of do like it. It's just a pretty cool opportunity. Think about this. If you're a kid that gets to go to that, and we have a couple, and I'm mentioning Jamie Robinson right now, Bill Belichick is working with these guys. Like, a lot of the pro coaches love this event because it's a hands-on deal where you get to coach them up and teach. A lot of the practices offer these opportunities to really teach the skill sets that they're going to need in the NFL that maybe they didn't utilize or get taught in college. It's fun to watch those things or to listen to those guys talk about it.
Apparently, it's a fun thing to attend to because if you go there for the trainings, I mean, it's just kind of open. You could just enjoy watching worlds collide in football. So if you love the sport, this is an event where nobody is trying to keep a secret. There's no paranoia. They're just saying, all right, let's see what you got.
We've got a couple of mutual friends who've attended every year for like 15 years, and the stories are awesome about you get a chance to walk up and talk to a Bill Belichick in the stands, and you get a chance to walk over and talk to an elite quarterback and just pick their brain about stuff. Like, it is that open. Yeah.
It's essentially what spring training is to baseball. This is to football, where everybody just kind of relaxes and they're willing to have a conversation. And I thought it was an excellent touch. I mean, they just another one for the Noles, but Norvell and Fuller.
It was a smart move.
Yes, the multiple people from I think it was Derek Ray and Bruce Warwick, I think.
Yeah, they were all there.
All of them went out
in support.
They got a photo with Jamie, but Jamie said, he put out on Twitter, if it's not for you guys, my head coach and my coordinator, I wouldn't have grown into the man that I am. It's just wonderfully done across the board. You want to support him genuinely, but then also he takes it to another level. Nicely done, Florida State. Well executed.
Well, there's a write-up very quickly that I think is interesting. They're talking about those that have the most to gain, the most to lose, and why that is at Senior Bowl. And you got to remember, too, the other part of this is you've got guys that maybe didn't have a platform where they weren't seen. So, for example, if you're Andre Carter II, he's an edge rusher from Army. Not a ton of these pros guys were watching Army play this year. You know, he didn't get a chance to showcase his skills against elite teams consistently. The Princeton wide receiver that's there, obviously an Ivy League kid, any Ivy League kid is going to want an opportunity to show that he can run with and be as strong and can hold up against top tier Division I talent. You've got you got a quarterback there from Shepherd College. I don't even know where that is. You know, you have a lot of guys that have opportunities to maybe showcase their abilities. But on to the Jamie Robinson write-up. And I thought this was interesting because it's true. And I thought this when it was announced that he was going to the Senior Bowl, I thought, this will be a great opportunity for him, and he'll see it this way. By the way, I don't know if I've ever shared this on the air, but now, since it's in the past, I can. At the time, they didn't want it to get out, mainly because of Fabian Levitt's injury. But some of the Florida State players visited my son's middle school, and he plays football. And, I mean, they were over the moon to meet all these players. And one of them was Jamie Robinson. And my son, my youngest, has a picture with Jamie Robinson, and Jamie signed his phone and did all this stuff. And so he loves Jamie Robinson. That is his player. But what I think is cool is that it was relayed to me by his coach and some of the people that were there, just how cool Jamie was with all of those kids and how he was helping them, teaching them footwork if they played his position. Like, here's what you need to know. And then followed up with them later on. Like, my son follows him on Instagram. He's written back to him. Like, hope you're doing well. How'd the season finish up? Just cool things to relate to people because we don't always get to see that side of these players. So
I'm glad you got to tell that story because it was in the midst of when is Fabian returning, and Fabian was one of the guys out there.
Yeah, Fabian was out there, and it was hilarious because it actually came up. Meaning, Fabian was out there, and the speculation was how close is he to playing? Is it this week or is it next week? And he was moving around pretty well. Well, my son asked to take a picture with him, and he takes a picture with him along with some other kids, and then somebody mentions, hey, be careful, Fabian. His dad's the radio guy. And Fabian goes, what radio guy? He's the sports radio guy. He's like, hey, kid, tell your dad you can't say anything about me being out here today. So Clark came home and was like, hey, Dad, don't mention that Fabian was at this thing. I said, I'm not going to mention any of it. But that did happen. It was kind of funny. So they were teasing Fabian like, oh, you done screwed up now. See, this is how it happens. This is how things get out.
Dad, he will block me on Instagram. Don't do it.
Well, I don't want to piss off Fabian Lovett. I can tell you that. That's a big man. But
quick hands, too.
Yeah.
And he's back for another year.
Yeah, which is great. But Jamie Robinson, so back to the on-the-field stuff that I think is going to be interesting for him and whether he can translate to the NFL and play and have a meaningful role in the NFL. And it's because he spent so much time in the box for an undersized guy because he's such a good tackler. I find it fascinating. So this was one of the write-ups, and I think this is exactly right. Robinson played a unique safety/linebacker role at Florida State. He looked tremendously fast to the football his entire career with the Noles. But at under 5'11" and 195 pounds, he's on the small side for the safety spot, particularly if he's going to roam in the box as a nickel linebacker or a strong safety. Robinson's going to have to be very dynamic during the team workouts and the game itself to provide evidence to scouts and GMs that he can live in the box at the next level because it best suits his skill set. I think that's true. I mean, obviously, it is a different game in the league. We know that. Bigger, stronger, faster, every level you go up. But he was very physical. He's well put together for his size, but he is undersized. I think he's got to weigh in it more than that now, right? I think he's got to be
plays
210.
much larger than that.
He does. He does. But they weigh these kids there, so I'm feeling that might be inaccurate.
Yeah, I don't know about sideline to sideline. That's part of the responsibility, too. If you're going to be close to the line of scrimmage, you got to be able to work around some things. I think he's going to make a roster. I think
he's going to get drafted.
He'll be, at the very least, a good special teams player and a rotational piece in the defensive backfield. He's got too much of a knack for the football.
That's the number one element.
And he's got the nastiness necessary. You can't be afraid or timid in the NFL. The plays happen too fast. If you're timid, they're going to run by you. They're going to run through you. He's not timid. So he's got the makeup, I think, between the ears. He's got the makeup to play. He's going to be an interesting case, though, because he's a tweener. He is.
Yeah, he is. I'm rooting for him. I like the kid. I just gave you all the reasons I like him. He was a good player here. He worked really hard. He was really nice to my kid. but he was nice to the other kids, too. It wasn't just mine. So, yeah, I'm rooting for that guy to succeed. I root for all these guys to succeed unless they're jerks when they're here. But that's the other thing about that team that we loved so much last year. I mean, we could all hope that it's similar this next year, but each team has a 1-year shelf life. You just don't know. But
it's going to be hard to live up to what this team was, I think, in terms of headaches for Mike Norvell. I don't even mean about the way they handle media availabilities, or I'm just saying, as you get better, there are more egos in the room. And Coach Norvell does a really good job at vetting before the kids come on campus as either high schoolers or transfer portal guys if they're going to fit. But still, as you're getting high 4-stars and 5-star type players.
And that's the transformation you have to make if you're going to win championships. That's something that
Correct.
I do think that ultimately we have to get to. There's no doubt about that. You can't survive solely in the transfer portal.
It can be amicable. It could be professional, for lack of a better word. But I don't know that it's going to be kumbaya. There was a whole lot of kumbaya to this team.
They had to, because when you're having to buy into the extent that they had to buy in, you're taking a leap of faith. And the way you take a leap of faith, or one of the easier ways to take a leap of faith, is if you're doing it with somebody else. It's not just you out on an island trying to say that I'm all in, everybody else. It helps when you have a group of guys that like, no, come on, let's do this. Let's work hard. Let's buy in. Let's listen to what coach is saying. Let's see if this pays off. And it did pay off. That's the other part of it. They came out the other side of a 3-game losing streak and won all the remaining games. You wonder, had that not happened, if they had one more hiccup, what we would have got from that point forward. But they didn't. So there it is. I do believe it's built on something very real. I've talked about this before. I got asked a question recently, mutual friend of ours, good friend of mine. He said that he was asked a question that, hey, I listened to that show, and those guys seem to think that Mike is a really good leader of men. Where did he garner his philosophy from, if that's the case? Was it inherent that he just figured out along the way, or was it learned? Did he learn it from somebody specific? Does he buy into a certain philosophy? And I've told this story a bunch, and it's easily found. I mean, Mike was basically raised, from what I can understand, in a single-parent household. And football saw a lot of father figures for him. He played football, obviously, like a lot of us. You get into Pee Wee football, you play, you encounter a lot of coaches, position coaches, head coaches, or the like, and they have an influence on your life. I can name several coaches that I still quote, and I still think about the impact they had on my life. If you're lucky, you get one of those guys at least. If you're really lucky, you get 2 or 3 of those kinds of guys that transform the way you think about what it means to be a man, or to work hard, or to buy in, or to whatever it might be, right? Be a teammate. And Mike has alluded to the fact that he had several father figures from the world of football, and that's why he feels like he owes the game, loves the game, wants to get back to the game. I think, personally, that's why he is he does a very good job of relating to kids. If you think about kids from rural neighborhoods or inner city or whatever it might be, there are a lot of situations that aren't ideal. A lot of kids that play football that grow up impoverished, grow up without one of the parents in their household. Not all, obviously, but there's a lot of situations like that. Countless stories of it. And how many of those players have talked about, whether you're growing up in farm country or, a dilapidated poor neighborhood, whatever it might be, how many of those guys that make it go back and say, oh, thank God I had football. Thank God I had athletics. Thank God I had a great teacher, whatever it might be, right? Well, if you're that guy that they're talking about, clearly there's a relatability factor to that for a good percentage of your roster, which is important, which I think is a great thing. Mike looked up to those coaches, looked up to those guys as father figures, guys that could teach him the right way to go about your business, the right way to prepare, the right way to work, if you're teaching somebody how to be a good man, a good teammate, all those things, and it works, and you learned it from those guys, and you pass it on, pay it forward, people can tell what's genuine and what's disingenuous. I mean, it doesn't take long for kids to see through grown-ups, whether that's a teacher, that could be anybody, that could be a pastor, a teacher, it could be a cop, it could be a football coach, it could be whomever. You know the real ones, and then the ones that are just saying things with rhetoric to get you to do what they want because it benefits them, as opposed to they truly care about you.
Well, and that's where you want to see better quality as our guys get other opportunities as assistant coaches and they move forward. That's what happened with Kenny Dillingham, who's now a head coach, some others as well along the way. You want to have a staff full of the real ones like that, but then also you want to succeed at a level to where a kid can make a choice between what I believe to be a disingenuous dude up at Clemson and Mike Norvell. But I think that right now it becomes a no contest until maybe recently, because they're going to play for championships. That's what they do. That's what they do at Clemson. That's not what we do around here. It's been a long time.
Hasn't been. Yeah.
It's been a long time since we have. In the minds of 17 and 18-year-olds, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
They were in first grade. They were or younger when we were relevant in the national scheme. So let's get our success to a place where now they can judge it based upon the head man. Maybe there's a tiebreaker there versus the will to play for a title winning out over the guy they liked more. Because there are a lot of kids in the previous recruiting cycles who said, I love everything about Coach Norvell. I just don't know that he's going to be here.
Well, right. It was used against us in recruiting, rightfully so. If I were competing against Florida State and I heard kids repeatedly say how much they liked the messaging from Mike and they enjoyed the visits and they believed in what he had to tell them, well, I'd be concerned because I got to beat that guy. Now, how would I go about my business? How would I slight that guy without offending that kid who's already publicly stated he likes him and believes in him and trusts him? Well, I would point out that he may not be there. It's a hell of a thing for you to invest your future, regardless of how good a man he might be.
Son, I love him too.
He seems like a great guy. I would have hired him if Florida State hadn't grabbed him. But here's the thing. There's a real good chance they're going to fire him. I mean, they keep losing football games. It's a business.
I would have hired him as my offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Little flex.
Yeah. But I couldn't do it because Florida State beat me to the punch, and now it looks like, unfortunately, they're going to let a good man go. Maybe I'll get a chance to bring him in, but I don't know how you can trust that. I mean, we'll see.
Forget the beating to the punch. Now we're just going to punch people. That's what we're going to do around here. We're delivering the punch.
So the bottom line is they did use the instability at Florida State against him, which you can't do it anymore. You can't do it any now. There's no question that he's going to be here for a while and things are moving in the right direction. You have to find another avenue to attack Florida State in recruiting. And this is why it's of vital importance that Florida State have a winning season again this year. I don't mean winning season, like a really good season, 10 wins or more again. You got to back it up and show sustainability. This year was the coming out party. Next year is the proof positive that we're going nowhere but upwards. So
that's an interesting question. If you were going to approach it from a different program's perspective,
what would I do to knock Florida State? Well, yeah. I can tell you what I would do, and this tells you everything. This tells you everything about why it's 2 fingers to my eyes, 2 fingers back to a certain side of the ball. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit isf.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Every day, Sellers makes life a little better for homeowners, helping them find the best design ideas for their homes with the best quality tile, carpet, and hardwood flooring. Even mosaics, ceramic, and vinyl solutions are at their fingertips in their remarkable showroom. Maybe it's time for you to get the Sellers advantage for your home or office. Find them on Capitol Circle Northeast, just north of Mahan Drive, or online at sellerstile.com. For style, quality, and design, get the Sellers advantage. In Tallahassee, call 656-8453.
Now go call Seminole Glass. They'll get on the road and get it done fast.
Your local family-owned glass company, serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. At Seminole Auto Glass, we care about your safety. Insurance will send you wherever it benefits them, not the quality of service. There's a difference in auto glass companies. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass.
They handle any kind of broken glass, and you know who they are.
Better call Seminole.
So let's say you're considering buying a new home in the current climate. All heard that demand is high, inventory is low. So how do you get a leg up on the rest of the buyers all making offers on the same house as you? Oh, that's a toughie. But the first place I'd suggest you start is with a call to my friend Shannon at Legendary Home Loans. Shannon will set you up with a complete pre-approval underwriting. This used to be an upgrade, but nowadays it's got to be standard. You want to get your offer on a new home pushed to the front of the line, you need a TBD full underwriting approval from Legendary Home Loans. You'll shorten or even remove your financing contingency, and the sellers will know that your offer is real and ready to go. It's tough out there these days, folks, so why not have the advantage of a proven winning team in your huddle? Get pre-approval underwriting from my friend Shannon with the one and only Legendary Home Loans. Call now, 844-FSU-LOAN, 844-FSU-LOAN, or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 2270146.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-279-0433 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-279-0433. That's 800-279-0433. What do you have to lose? Call 800-279-0433. Again, 800-279-0433.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
Have you ever seen that? Just go find it. It's out there. It's in any number of baseball sites have it. You just type it in. But he's talking to Adam LaRoche's son, and Adam LaRoche doesn't know who Bo Jackson is. I mean, his son doesn't. And so the kid he's on the field, and they're all warming up. Bo's an instructor with the White Sox, and the kid's like, "Did you play?" So thus begins the conversation. And Bo's trying to be humble. He's like, "Oh yeah, I played football and baseball." You know, and then the subsequent questions. He's, "Yeah, I was the only player in history to be an All-Star and in the Pro Bowl in the same year, but played a little bit." Like going through it, it's funny just to listen. And it's so innocent. Like the kid is innocent, and Bo's trying to dance around. Like, how do I tell this kid I'm one of the greatest athletes to ever live without saying I'm one of the greatest athletes to ever live?
How would you rate them quickly? Just, you've got Dion, you've got Bo, and you've got Charlie Ward, who are three very, very different two-sport athletes. In terms of degree of difficulty, maybe not overall athleticism.
I was going to say overall athleticism. You got to say Bo Jackson is
correct.
One of the great freaks to ever live.
Degree of difficulty, because obviously hitting a baseball is very, very difficult. But so is running the point at the NBA. It
is. Charlie had a long career too in the NBA.
A lot of football players that wish that they were basketball players at the NBA level. A lot of them. And, like, for example, T.O. and Tony Gonzalez would play in the NBA Summer League.
Yeah, Randy Moss would have liked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's just hard to compare the three, but I just wondered where that kind of sat in your mind, because all of those players I remember them from the professional days, but you remember them from the whole ride.
Yeah, I can remember Bo at Auburn and all that, and of course I remember Dion obviously here and then in the NFL, and I think Bo sits atop the mountain there. I mean, I just. He could have done anything. I mean, that's the level. He
could have been a point guard, though.
I don't know about that. I don't know if he could have been a point guard. I don't know if he even liked basketball. But he was such a freak of nature that had the ability to not only run like the wind blows, but the power to go with, and the arm strength is an uncanny element of what Bo had. Like, there's some of those throws that you can find online are the throws of the stuff of legend. They're Clemente-esque. They're things that you shouldn't be able to do. And then you see those little feats of strength where you're like, oh, that's a different level. Like when he's enraged and he breaks the fat part of the bat over his thigh, like it's a toothpick. Like, not the handle. Like, woo, that's different. But Dion tells a funny story of getting run over by Bo Jackson. That he talks about. I just saw that recently. He was talking about Florida State Auburn played, and Bo ran his ass over, and he's like, I came at it the wrong way, wrong guy. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no shame in that. Bo was what he was. One of the great tragedies is that hip injury, because if that had not happened, who knows what that career would have been. It's weird now. Subsequently, people go back because they get tired of hearing about what a great athlete he was, and then they look up the stats in baseball and football, and neither one of them stand out in a way that speaks to preternaturally gifted in either sport. And yet we know, for those that watched him, what he was and what he would have been had he not got hurt. Yeah, he also was mean. He was like really mean. Apparently, it took years and years and years for him to kind of get past the anger of his childhood, which the book just came out. And if you read that book, I've read excerpts. I have not read the whole book, but I want to. And in it, he had a horrible childhood. And he had a severe stutter, which I also remember. And he was made fun of for that all the time. And I'm sure that led to a lot of anger management issues. And probably a lot of kids getting an ass kicking too, because if once that guy snaps, you got a problem.
Yeah. You wonder what the cutoff was. Like if he's in third grade, could he take down a seventh grader? Probably.
Yeah.
High school, probably a little too much at that point. Yeah.
Wouldn't take real long. Yeah.
Right.
Wouldn't
By
take
fifth grade. Yeah.
Let's solve for the future with my partners and friends at ISF. They know that you want to do amazing things. Those visions and goals, they're out there, but sometimes you need some help in solving for the future and those challenges that are inherent to government operations, right? ISF is, in fact, an IT and strategy firm. They've been doing it for over 40 years. They do it for the entire country. They projects, over 1,500 projects around the nation, and they're right here in Tallahassee, Florida, which is fantastic for our community, certainly. And they have successfully partnered with their clients to ensure they adapt to the changes technologically and otherwise, become much more efficient. Is ISF. So we were asking the question before the break, and this suits us perfectly for ISF and solving for the future. If you're attacking Florida State on the recruiting trail, they still haven't accomplished anything just yet. They had a nice 10-win season. They're a sexier team than they were, but they haven't won the ACC under Mike Norvell. That one winning season under Mike Norvell. So they're big picture things that you could still question if you were competing against Florida State and you wanted to say, hey, look, guys, it was a nice year for them last year. It's about time they finally had a winning season. But, we're Georgia. We're so-and-so. We just won back-to-back national championships. You're not going to out-recruit that team just yet. But the area where I think you could probably attack Florida State is you could say, do they have a championship staff on defense? Is that defense coached by guys that are going to bring you to the national championship? Because our guys can, and if you're Alabama or you're Clemson or you're Georgia, that's what you're using against Florida State. We've done that. And we've even successfully navigated those guys leaving, and we've hired, we've continued to prove that we're the standard bearer there. We play the best defense in all the land. And in a sport that's become really difficult to get stops, we get them more often than everybody else. There are very few programs in the country that can say that. If you're competing against Georgia, if you're competing against Alabama, if you're competing against Clemson, schools like that, who this past year, two of those schools did not play very well on defense, but we get the point there consistently. I would ask that question. And I would point to the fact that, look, Randy Shannon is not known as an elite recruiter. If you're not an elite recruiter, if you're an average to poor recruiter, then you better do something exceptionally well. Your coaching acumen has to be otherworldly. Don't know that is either. So you may have, I'm using him as an example, there may be other people to point to that you think aren't up to the standard of a championship caliber defense.
Well, and that's what Michael Langston had put on the boards during the early signing period of the recruiting season, and he stamped it just as
as I just did.
Yeah, that it's development from the high school ranks is something that was used against defensive backs that were considering FSU.
We got him out of there, so I attacked that last year.
But you could, yes, you did, with great development.
Yes.
That's the thing that you could say for me is how many guys are they actually developing from high school? So if you're making this decision, young man, leaving the prep ranks, what is their track record of getting you to where you need to go? Very good in the transfer portal. They're very good with 20 to 21-year-olds, but what's their plan for you in your formative years? How are you going to get to where you need to be from 18 to 20 years old so you can take that next step? That's where we have shown the track record to hone in the guys and improve the guys that we bring in from high school. Now, they do a great job in the portal, but look at what we do for you in your redshirt season, your redshirt freshman season, your redshirt sophomore season.
It's the next big step for this staff to prove themselves in. We know that they've done the things necessary to arrive at a place where you can further expectations and have greater hopes for what is possible. But until that step is taken, you won't be fully realized. So we get that. And I understand it doesn't happen overnight. So if I'm talking about it from the standpoint of a Florida State fan or my analysis of Florida State, I get that it's a process. I get that it takes winning season upon winning season to begin to change the minds of high school kids. Got it. That's said in some cases. And that's the downside of this staff's makeup. The plus side we've just seen. I think they're really good at game planning. I think they're certainly really good at messaging. I think they've done a very good job of creating a culture that people want to stick around and be part of or join. They have done a great job of player analysis in the portal. They've taken kids that had success at their previous stop, brought them in, and elevated their level of play, thus further strengthening their position with players all throughout the portal. The next step is high school. And you went out and got a Patrick Surtain to help you do that because your last defensive backs coach was not doing that, and he wasn't developing players more importantly. I think Surtain will do both. I think he's got great inroads to South Florida, which is going to go a long way in bringing in 4- and 5-star caliber players for the back end of this defense. And he's certainly very confident.
He wasn't shy about that question yesterday, was he?
No, it's awesome. And you've got to have that. I think it's important, especially if you're recruiting kids in South Florida. I like it. I'm fine with that. A little edge to you, a lot of confidence to you. Very important. And of course, he can back it up because his resume speaks volumes about who he is and what he's accomplished. So they hit a home run there, which again should lead directly to more successes in the high school ranks of recruiting. Now, let's hope we see that. Let's hope we see that after this upcoming season. The 2024 class has got to be better as it pertains to the high school kids. This year's emphasis, as it pertains to the collective was roster retention, portal. Okay, got it. Again, you're still filling in holes in the various segment groups that weren't where they needed to be for you to win this conference or for you to go to the college football playoff. So you didn't have time to wait on a freshman. Fine, got it. It was imperative that you got Jarrett Verse in the portal to replace Jermaine Johnson, who you got in the portal, who had to replace kids that weren't capable, okay? So that's what we'll say. And
that did not come from the portal.
Right. So I get why they went that route. I laud them for their success. They've done a great job of that. They've created a culture. Now let's get some high school kids in that culture and continue to develop it. I think they can, and I think they will, because wins beget that. I mean, you have to win games and change minds.
That's what's fun to me here is, yes, the negative recruiting has to get more nuanced. Because we're getting better. And that's a harder case to make. Is it potentially correct, especially on the defensive side of the ball, about track record to this point? Sure. You can make that case, and it could be compelling enough for a kid who's good enough to consider the better.
Yeah, the elite programs that you got to take down.
In recent history programs, last 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
You could sway them. But you have to make a nuanced case now. It's not as
certainly more nuanced,
especially on the offensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball,
I don't think you could go there.
They flipped it overnight.
Yeah, I don't even think you would go there on the offensive side of the ball. I think if you were negatively recruiting Florida State, you would be foolish to start on the offensive side.
Well, but what I'm saying is there are some prospects who are only offensive players.
Correct.
It just got a whole hell of a lot harder to compete against us in the recruiting trail for a running back, receiver, and now after this season, I would project tight end, offensive lineman. I mean, look out. Look at what they did with Jordan Travis as a quarterback. That now you're going to get the stigma of being a developer of quarterbacks. So if you're going against us in this footprint for one of those positions, it just got a whole hell of a lot harder in the last 12 months to win out over Florida State.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to be difficult. This is what happens when programs build themselves back up. I mean, what are you saying when you're recruiting a kid? So if you put the shoe on the other foot, let's get back to being us for a second. If you're vying for a kid that wants to go to or has the opportunity to go to Clemson, Georgia, or Alabama, well, you really cannot argue that those are all fine institutions of higher learning that also excel on the football field. You have to sell you. You can't negatively recruit Alabama. You can't the only thing you can say is it's going to be a minute before you get on the field there, son. They've got 5 and 6 receivers that are all 5-star kids, so you're not going to come in and play right away. Okay, you can do that. That's it. Other than that, you can't attack any other aspect. You're just better off propping yourself up in what you can provide.
Yeah, and you can't promise playing time right now on the offensive side of the ball. We're too loaded for the next year or two. In terms of that depth chart, like Hakeem is, because if you're talking to a 24 kid who's a receiver, you've got Hakeem along with the leftovers from this year for next season in terms of the starting role. So it's going to be a couple years here at that position at running back. Now behind Benson next year, you're looking at Keziah, Rodney Hill.
The good news is, though, I will say at those positions, if you're a forward-thinking, if you have a team of people around you that are forward-thinking as a running back, you don't want to go to a place where you're going to carry the ball 27 times a game. You want to break that up so that you have, the ability to go on and still have something in the tank when you go to the league. I mean, any offense anymore, there's very few exceptions. I mean, Bijan Robinson gets a ton of carries in Texas because he's a special, talented player. But, I mean, very few people have like a one-back offense or feature back where they say that guy gets 28 carries like in the olden days when I grew. That doesn't happen anymore, really.
And that's a pitch you could make to kids who believe that wear and tear is important. That's the pitch actually Jimbo made to Dalvin Cook, ironically enough. Dalvin said he chose Florida State because we don't utilize just one running back.
Right.
And what did we end up doing? Well, we beat Dalvin to hell for our own sake. That's all we had towards the end of Jimbo's time, and it was what we needed to do to win 10 football games in 2016. But on offense, if you have the type of kid on the high school circuit that can accept that 1 week he'll have 6 catches, another week he'll have 1, and he's okay with that, that does cater to what this offense is about. If you're being honest about what we do here, the game plan or the focus can change any given week.
It does.
We're too balanced.
I love that we're that kind of balanced. It's the reason that I have nothing but high hopes for what this offense will be for the foreseeable future. They are not just one thing. They continue to be dynamic. They utilize the roster's skill set better than most. They game plan well. This, for me, again, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. The pressure is all on the defense this year. They're going to have to step up and be much better. They took a step forward last year. They were better last year than they were the year before. There's no doubt about that. They were coordinated, whereas before I was questioning whether or not they were coordinated. That was an awful thing to have to say. I mean, that is a damning indictment of your coaching skills if I'm questioning whether or not the defense is coordinated. Now, they are definitely coordinated. They may not be good enough, and there are areas where I thought you could upgrade. They did in one. I still will maintain they're probably going to have to, before this is all said and done, make a couple more changes. But, all right, at least we made one change, and the guy we brought in I think is a no-brainer. I really do. When they announced Patrick Surtain, there we go.
Do you think he helps solve for the future?
Yeah, man. In the same way that ISF will help you solve for your future. You and your staff, you work hard. Constituents depend on you. They collaborate with you. They'll reduce costly inefficiencies. They'll get the most out of the technologies. Work with you. Prosper. ISF. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3. Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
The Tallahassee Fire Department is almost fully staffed, but that doesn't mean they stop recruiting.
What's up, guys? Our next partner that you're going to hear from is Athletic Greens. You've heard me talk about Athletic Greens in the past. Happy to talk about them again. I take Athletic Greens every day, and I gave them a try because certainly I wanted more energy, sustained energy. I wanted to support my immune system. I don't like taking pills and vitamins per se, and I wanted something that tasted good too. And the first time I tried it, I was very surprised. It had an appreciable effect on my energy levels. And also, over time, you'll note that it helps your skin, your hair, your nails. I don't have a lot of hair, but if I did, I bet I could feel that. I bet I could tell. It's a comprehensive health habit, and it is a powerful one at that. AG1 is great for recovery. That's Athletic Greens. And I take mine basically when I wake up every morning. I don't have to worry about it because you get all the nutrients that you want. It's the best way to ensure that you're going to get all of your vitamins. It's a carbon-neutral business, by the way, if that's important to you. It is to a lot of people, and that's good to know as well. I would also note that it is a comprehensive solution to what you need from a supplement routine. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs right now with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/JCS. Helps me out, guys, if you use that. Not financially, but it lets them know that you heard this ad on my show. And I do take it, and I am vouching for them because I enjoy their product. It's athleticgreens.com/JCS. Check it out. I think you'll note the difference in your life with a simple drink each and every morning to start your day. athleticgreens.com/JCS.
6200.
My man, Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears is what you're saying.
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinking. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, Greg?
You know all the different ways that you can listen to Real Talk 93.3?
There are several.
So we've got realtalk93.com. You can go back and listen to all of our shows in the podcast section.
That's right. You can also listen on our app as well.
Search Real Talk 93.3 and look for the red microphone and download our app. Never go anywhere without us.
And of course, you can always listen right on the radio.
Well, they are listening.
Are they?
If they're hearing this commercial, then they're listening.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
See, did you actually go and look at it? Louisville's schedule for next year?
No.
God, dog.
It's that simple?
You ready? W's and L's, Louisville. I mean, it's insane. W's. Wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost. We fucking super lost, man.
Where do we triumph? Where doth thou fall?
So for those that don't remember, they brought in their prodigal son in Jeff Brom. He's coming in from Purdue and taking the job at Louisville. Very good offensive mind. And you ask yourself, well, who's going to replace Malik Cunningham, who's a very good college quarterback? There's no getting around that. Well, it's Jack Plummer, who had 21 touchdowns and more than 3,000 yards passing last year at Cal. Pretty good player. He's familiar with Brom's system. He spent 3 seasons at Purdue prior to going to Cal.
Very nice.
So you got a guy that knows the system and has been productive. All right. So that said, they've got some guys that are equipped to do some things about it. Nothing great, but they also got a running back from Wisconsin who averaged over 6 yards a carry last year. They've done some roster building. Brom comes in, hits the ground running. That should be a more cohesive group. He's a good coach.
If that running back does well, they won't use him anyway. He'll succeed in the first quarter, and then they'll throw it the rest of the game.
So for those that don't know, Louisville, folks, does not play Clemson. They do not play Florida State, and they do not play North Carolina. So I'm going to start there by telling you they don't play the 3 best teams in the ACC. That's a hell of a thing. They must love the new 3-3-5 model, Tom.
Man, that makes that game at Clemson all the more important, sir.
Well, that's why I'm bringing this up, because I went back and looked at the schedules. I knew that Louisville had, even on the night that the schedule was announced, I was like, oh, Louisville seems to have an easy schedule. But I went back and looked at it this morning, and I went, well, damn, this is criminal. They're like, oh, the 3-3-5's for us. I love the schedule changes. No divisions. Beautiful thing. They played Georgia Tech in Atlanta week 1. Poor Georgia Tech. Sweet Jesus. Speaking of poor Georgia Tech, they just got housed in basketball by Louisville.
Oh, really?
3-win Louisville.
When do we play them again?
Oh, so Tech, game number 1. Murray State, game number 2. I'm going to go win-win to start the year for Louisville. At Indiana. Indiana's back to being sorry-ass Indiana. 3-0. Boston College at home.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Guys, let's just do this again. Georgia Tech, Murray State, Indiana, BC. That's the start of the season for Louisville. The Brom era is off to a good start at 4-0. Okay, I'll grant you, here's your first real test, and it's these 3 games that will determine whether or not we should get concerned about Louisville, meaning that we can't slip up because they could supplant us.
Yeah, we won't even know. We'll have already played Clemson.
So here it is. They play at NC State, September 29th, home to Notre Dame, and at Pitt.
Yeah, Notre Dame wouldn't count as a conference loss.
It's not a conference loss, but I'm saying that stretch of 3 games has to feature a loss.
They can influence each other. Sure. Yeah.
So NC State on the road, Notre Dame at Pitt. But they're home to Duke. That's not a gimme, especially for them, but home to Duke. Virginia Tech, home to Virginia. At Miami, which, whatever. And home to Kentucky. That's the schedule. That's it. That's all.
Good God.
It's Georgia Tech, Murray State, Indiana, BC, NC State, Notre Dame, Pitt, Duke, Va Tech, Virginia, Miami and Kentucky. You're not going to get, I mean, the fact that you're avoiding Drake May, the fact that you're avoiding Jordan Travis, Cade Klubnik, you're avoiding every good quarterback in the league.
Who are their fixtures then, would be my question. Because it's 3-3-5, meaning you got, or 3-5-5, excuse me. It's 3-5-5. But you've got,
no, it's 3-3-5.
Is it 3-5?
No,
because the 5 rotate, the 3 are the fixed.
It's the 3-3-5 model.
That's a defense, but
no, it's the 3-3-5 model.
But you've got 3 fixtures. Either way you slice, you got 3 fixtures. Who the hell are there?
I didn't look up who their fixtures are, but obviously it's
Pitt?
Probably Duke,
Pitt, NC State?
I don't know. We have to look it up.
Jeez.
2 of the Cardinals' road games are neutral site games. When you think of Georgia Tech is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and Indiana is at Lucas Oil Stadium. So, I mean, it's not necessarily neutral site games, but pretty close. I don't know, man. That's the Cardinals have never had a 10-win season since joining the ACC. They've never played for the ACC championship. People forget that, even though they had Lamar.
Yeah, if not now, when? So next year, with the other 5, it'll rotate in.
Well, they lost. They won 8 games a year ago. They had 2 losses by a combined 5 points against a much tougher schedule. So this year the schedule gets easier. You've got a better coach, and you avoid, obviously the 3 best teams in the league.
You don't have a great eraser at quarterback. You've got a new system you got to break in. These are all the questions that they're going to.
But the quarterback knows the system like the back of his hand because he played in it for 3 years. That goes a long way in expediting that process too. So I'm not telling you like we should be sitting around here scared to death of Louisville. I am saying that is that's something. I mean, that's an easy road for them to kind of be a problem. That's all I'm saying. It could be a bit of an issue. We might be like, damn, these guys are 7.
You're going to have to look up the tiebreaker in the standings. Is it ranking?
It's ranking.
The
league can decide, as I understand it, who's playing in the ACC championship game, but it's likely to be based on the 2 highest ranked teams.
Right. But if you've got a better conference record, they can't decide.
No,
tiebreaker.
Right, no, it can't be willy-nilly. It can't just be like, well, this team's undefeated. They've lost 5 times. I like the team that's lost 5 times, Sean.
We're going to go North Carolina and Clemson.
Yeah, no, they can't do that. But if it's all things equal,
and
there's
so
a
at
tie,
that point, you just need one. You need them to lose 1 freaking time. That's what you need.
Well, they will. I mean, that's why I'm not as concerned. But what if they lose once and we lose once?
We'll be higher ranked. If we only lose once, that means that by definition we beat either LSU or Clemson. Well, in this case, we would beat LSU and lose to Clemson. The LSU win would carry us much higher in the top 25.
If Notre Dame's good and that's Louisville's only loss, it could still be a question. I agree with you, though. I'm not as worried about it, but it's interesting. I feel again like Florida State. When we go through our schedule, I continue to circle those 2 games, and the only other game that I look at that I get nervous about is one that they also play on the road at Pitt. So they're going to have that game as well. So if Pitt is really good, which we speculated it was a possibility that they could be the surprise team, well, Louisville has to play them on the road as well. So that we'll have that head-to-head, I guess, in that sense. They play them on October the 14th. It is funny, by the way, when you look at Pitt, when we play them in November, you talk about not knowing what you're going to get. November last year, in the same month, featured a game against North Carolina at Pitt. I think it was the game, which was 29 degrees with 14 or mile per hour winds. 14 to 20 mile per hour winds and 29-degree weather. That hurts your feelings if you're sitting in the stands for that one, let alone playing in it. But earlier in the same month, it was 77 degrees.
Interesting schedule for Pitt. You're going to know quite a bit about them by October. They start out, it's Wofford, whatever, but then it's Cincinnati at West Virginia, and then they host North Carolina. I mean, as far as out-of-conference schedule goes, that's not nothing there, that 3-game sequence before they start their conference play with North Carolina. And then we know that their lead up to us is they play Notre Dame, and they play Notre Dame on the road the week before we go
helps
up there. That's a nice little.
That's why I said the ACC kind of
did us okay.
They did us okay. Most of the team post Clemson, the teams that play us, none of them have a bye before playing us, and all of them play either Notre Dame, Clemson, or NC State.
The sequence of the 4 games. Let's just say Louisville's average to
above
above
average. By the way,
average.
this is the quality tub talk. I like this tub talk right here. This is the kind of fun and games in the tub where we're talking about the schedule and what's fair and what's not fair and teams to worry about.
It's time for Tub Talk, brought to you by Pinch-A-Penny Pools and Spas. Buy yourself the hot tub you've always wanted at the price you've always wanted from Pinch-A-Penny on Greer Street. Now, it's live to the tub.
We were already in the tub, announcer guy. We've been in the tub. 50-plus hot tubs in stock and ready for delivery. No waiting for your order to arrive for weeks on end. No, sir. Installation included on certain models. Pinch-A-Penny Pools and Spas. Locally owned, right there on Greer Street. Support locally owned businesses. Pinch-A-Penny.
4-game sequence culminating with Florida State is Louisville, at Wake, at Notre Dame, and FSU. So,
yeah.
Pitt has a tough road
Pitt's
this
like,
year.
damn it, man.
They finished with Syracuse and Boston College, and then they go to Duke to close out their season. That's a little bit easier. But, I mean, you've got a 3-game stretch with Cincinnati at West Virginia. That's just a harrowing sight to see in those stands. Then you host Drake May. And it's Louisville, Wake, Notre Dame, Florida State. Yikes.
You going up to Pittsburgh with me this year?
I would say that would be more likely than Boston. If I was going to make a rodeo, it'd be more likely to go to Pitt than to go to Boston. Yeah.
You'd love it, buddy. I really think you would like it. You'd like, even if we just did the Natural History Museum, the Carnegie Museum is insane. A lot of good ones. By the way, the Heinz Center is awesome too. You'd like that as well. There's a Science Center, the Carnegie eat everything. The Science Center there is awesome as well. I've been to that.
Carnegie Mellon?
Mm-hmm. I've been to that campus.
Thornton Mellon?
Yeah. You can go to the Carnegie Museum of Art. I've also been to that. Carnegie's like, I got you. Good stuff. Good work out of you. Good work, Director Matthew. Be well, everybody. Have a great night. We'll talk to you on Live Nations Friday. Peace.